What's going on, friends? Welcome back to another New World video, or perhaps your first New World video. As I could see here on the starting beach, there have been a ton of new players joining the game recently with the free-to-play PS5 release. My understanding is if you have PlayStation Plus, you can play New World for free, and it does seem to be having a pretty big impact. I'm seeing a lot of new players constantly on the starting beach in both Monarchs and Windsward. So if you are brand new to the game and you'd like some just general tips and tricks, some pointers when it comes to New World Aeternum, that's what today's video is going to be about. And again, if you're a returning player, the new player experience and what is important in terms of builds and progression and things to look for, that has changed over the years as well. So if you guys are interested, you can scrub along for the relevant information that you might want, but we're going to try to keep this video short and succinct. So with that being said, let's jump on with the tips and tricks. One of the first choices you're faced with when playing New World Aeternum is which archetype you choose. Now, one thing that is very important to note here, I've seen a bunch of players get confused by this, you are not locked into the weapons that you have here. It's simply just a starting build or recommendation. One of the things that makes New World special is you can mix and match any weapons together. So if you like the look of the sword and shield, but you perhaps want to play it with the Warhammer instead, you can do that. You could pick either the soldier or you could pick the destroyer and then switch out your secondary weapon. So we could switch out the great axe for the sword and shield, or we could switch out the hatchet for the warhammer, or perhaps we could even choose the mystic and then switch out both of the weapons here. All of this is just a very early starting template, and within the first sort of 24-48 hours, it won't really matter too much anyway. So just pick what seems fun. One thing that you maybe want to pay attention to is the trade skills down here. Getting a 50 boost is kind of nice, but again, you can overcome this very quickly as well. If you want my advice, I do think the Ranger archetype or the Soldier are probably the best starting classes, just in terms of like their complementary trade skills and the weapons. I do think they lend themselves to that new player experience. Once you've gone through character customization and decided what you want to look like, you can then continue, name your character, and after this, you will be given this option here to choose a server. Now, this is a pretty important decision. Your server is going to be basically who you play with. So if you're playing with a group of friends, make sure that you all have the same server selected. If you're on PlayStation, you might have access to certain PlayStation servers. One thing that's important to note there, I'm just gonna have to back out to the main menu to show you guys this one. You can choose whether you're playing on a cross-play server, so you can play with Xbox, PS5, and PC all together, or just play with PlayStation 5 only by going up into the top right over here. You can go to your settings, and then we go to social, and down here you're gonna have an option. We don't see it on PC, but on PS5 and Xbox, you guys will have an option to turn on or off crossplay. I believe it's put on by default, but if you turn it off, you can play on the PlayStation 5 only servers. My recommendation is leave crossplay on. You want to play on a server with lots of other players. New World feels really good when you're playing on a nice busy server because there's just lots of people to buy and sell from and do content with. It just makes the game feel more alive. So I strongly recommend that you pick one of the crossplay servers. On EU, that's currently Ares, Nisa, or Bifrost. On US East, that's going to be Valhalla, Pangaea, or Hudson Land. And again, there might be more servers added by the time this video comes out. It's just depending on how many people are jumping in and playing the game. Now, one problem that can happen if you're playing New World Aeternum as a group of friends is you get a different spawning location. You don't get a choice. It's a 50-50 on whether you'll spawn in at Monarch's Bluff or you'll spawn in at Windsward, and each one has its own slightly different storyline. It only runs for like maybe a couple of hours. It's like your first sort of 15 levels. But if you do want to play together from the very beginning, you have two choices. You can either re-roll your character, so you go back, make a new character, and then hope that you get the starting spawn location. But my advice is you just do the sort of beginner quests. You go talk to Elstrom and then Erda. You'll do like, I don't know, like 10 minutes of quests here, and then it'll ask you to go to Monarchs. You'll see a quest over here. But instead, at this point, you will also see a quest at the front of Windsward as well, or Corinth as the capital is called. So what you can simply do is if all of your friends started over here and you ended up over here, you can just do the very sort of beginning quest line, and then when you see the quest pop up outside of the sort of town's gates, whether it's again at Windsward or Monarchs, you can just run to the other one and go play with your friends over there. Alternatively, the third option is to finish all of this storyline in either Monarchs or Windsward, and you'll both meet up in Everfall. The story does converge in Everfall, again around level 20. One very big piece of advice I have for any new or returning players in New World Aeternum is once you hit level 17, keep an eye out for your faction initiation quests. You can find these around Everfall, the settlement of Oxborough. You have a purple quest located on this crossroad over here. You have a green quest located inside this tavern or inn inn that I'm in, and then you have an orange quest or yellow quest just outside the sort of front gates of Oxborough. Talking to these NPCs, they'll give you an introduction to their faction, and then they'll give you a quest. And if you continue to follow this quest chain, you'll eventually be given the option to join them or decline, at which point you can join later on. Now, the big benefit of joining a faction, this is going to be like a two-part piece of advice, is because you can talk to your faction representative. Faction representatives are located in all of the major settlements within New World Aeternum, and the big benefit of this is, one, you have a bunch of extra quests you can do for extra XP, but two, is you get access to this rewards tab here. This is one of the few ways in the game where you can actually buy gear off of like NPCs basically. So pretty much everything else in New World Aeternum is either dropped from enemies or it's crafted, but this is actually an example of gear that you can get from an NPC. You buy it with gold, and you can spend faction tokens as well. Faction tokens you earn by just completing these missions. And a lot of this gear is going to be very good as you level up. I think one of my biggest pieces of advice, if you want to like stay geared as you level and make the sort of leveling experience really nice and easy, and even when you hit max level, some of this stuff down here is actually not too bad for like max level players. A little bit expensive, but it's got some good perks on it. You need to go to your faction quest basically. So you'll need to go pick up one of those quests, either the purple, the green, or the yellow, fully follow it through, and then you'll be able to talk to your faction representative and start earning faction reputation to level up the different tiers, and most importantly, being able to buy some of these nice pieces of weapons and armor that you can get from the faction store. One thing that's important to note, if you want to do PvP or player versus player combat outside of 3v3 Arena, which you're introduced to via Maximus over here, if you want to do any PvP, you can flag up for PvP by holding up on the D-pad and then pressing, I think it's L1 or LB, L2, or alternatively with mouse and keyboard, it's just U on the keyboard. When you are faction flagged, you will be able to party up with people of the same faction. So because I'm Covenant, I can play with other Covenant players. So again, if you want to do PvP and you want to join Big Mummy 69, then you will need to be in the Covenant faction so you guys can play together if you're interested in PvP. Again, by joining a faction, it does not mean that you have to do PvP. It doesn't mean you're going to get attacked by other players, but it is required if you want to. One mystery that a lot of new players initially face is why their dodge roll changed. It might be that when you guys start the game, you have access to the sort of dodge roll where you roll along the ground like this, and then as you're leveling up and getting new armor and stuff, you put it on, and suddenly your dodge changes to this sort of hop thing, or perhaps it's even gone fully into this kind of duck, I guess you could call it, when you're in a heavy equip load. And that is, as I say, because you're in a heavy equip load. Armor has weight, so you can see this is a heavy helmet, this is a heavy chest, you guys get the idea, and also your shield weighs quite a lot if you put that on. You do have to have a sword equipped or a flail equipped to get the benefit of the shield. You can see that my equip load went up massively there as I put the sword on. As I take the sword off, I'm no longer getting any benefit from the shield, so you can wear it cosmetically if you want. But that is not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is these ratios. Now, I think for a lot of people, they'll probably want to stay in a light equip load because the dodge roll feels really fun, right? It's fun to just move around, it makes it faster, you do more damage when you're in a light equip load. What is there not to like? But frequently, very, very frequently, new players will make this mistake of just equipping a full set of light armor. They'll go, yeah, full light. I'm just going to be in a light equip load. I'll just wear full light armor. One thing that you can do that's going to increase your survivability, because you're going to be very squishy, you're going to take a lot of damage when you're in full light armor, is actually change out your chest. Specifically just the chest. We can change that to medium. And we're still in a light equip load, but we increase our armor quite substantially. You can see we're almost at 370 physical here. If I go ahead and change back to that light chest, we've now dropped down to 287. So we've almost dropped our armor by 100 points there. That extra 100 armor is going to save you quite a bit of damage. It could even save your life in a few pinches if you're doing a particularly challenging pull against some enemies that are higher level than you. So my advice here is to play around with these equip load ratios. So trying to stay just under 13 or just under 23. There is a quick and simple formula to doing this when it comes to light and medium. So if you want to be in a light equip load to get the dodge roll and get all the benefits, usually you just go with a medium chest, and then everything else is going to be light armor. If you want to go into a medium equip load to get the hops, so you don't want to be as, susceptible to dying as you would be in a light equip load, you want to be a little bit tankier, usually the players you go a heavy helmet, heavy chest, medium gloves, light legs, and then medium boots. This puts you just under the threshold of going into heavy, and now you've got all the benefits of the extra armor, but you don't have the penalties of being in a full heavy set. And for what it's worth, if you guys want to be in heavy armor, you may as well just put everything heavy on. There's no like super heavy or like slightly heavy. Just go full heavy if you want to be as tanky as possible. When it comes to leveling up in New World Aeternum, honestly, you should just do what you guys find the most fun. If you just enjoy killing enemies or even just chopping down trees, they all give you experience. But if you're interested in the most efficient way to level up, it is just doing the main story quest line. So this is going to be the one that you pick up from starting with Windsward or Monarchs. Again, as we talked about in the beginning of the video, you might have a little bit of confusion because you will see a main story quest over here, but that's just there because you were given the Windsward start and then it gives you the Monarch start as an option, but you don't have to do this one if you want, and vice versa. If you started in Monarchs, you'll see the Windsward one. This is if you want to go do it with friends, or, you know, avoid making a new character to try out the other starting storyline. But they both converge in Everfall. They take you into Brightwood and Weaver's Fen and beyond, and they give you a lot of experience. So yeah, just fully following through the main storyline is my best advice when it comes to leveling. It's also incredibly important because it unlocks the Elysian Wilds, which is an important area you need to go for when you hit the max level cap of 65 in the game. Now, the final topic for this video is one of the most complicated, and it is what to do after you hit max level. So you've hit level 65, you've fully finished the main storyline, you've unlocked the Elysian Wilds and done all the quests in there. What do you do next? Well, the answer is whatever you find fun. So if you've been enjoying doing crafting and gathering, keep doing that. If you've just been enjoying exploring and finishing some of the quiet side quests, keep doing that. If you haven't maxed out your faction reputation, I'd also strongly recommend you do that. But realistically, my advice would be to take a look at some of the activities content. This is what I find the most fun in New World, and I also find the most accessible, and it's also a decent way to make gold. For example, with mutated expeditions, I can get this mutated bonus cash twice a day just by queuing up randomly. If I queue up as a tank or healer, I get an additional 500 gold. So we get 3,000 gold by doing this twice a day, which is actually not too bad over the span of a week. But when it comes to some of this content, especially like the Hive of Gorgons raid, you're going to need to put together a build. Sadly, or most likely, the case is that if you've been leveling up with something like Great Axe and the Musket, it's not going to be the most effective build when it comes to clearing some of the very high level content. In order to do this, certain metas have evolved and certain expectations are placed that you're going to play with weapons that are going to do a lot of damage and be very effective when it comes to fighting the specific bosses. Again, if you're having fun playing your own build and you're enjoying the game, just keep doing it. But if you do want to clear like the most challenging content in the game, then you're probably going to need to do it with something that is set up for that challenging content. And when it comes to builds, I'm going to first show you guys a resource here. So this is our Discord, discord.gg/The Shire. I'll put a link in the description down below. From here, you can click on the weapon that you're interested in, so Lifestaff, and then we have a few different Lifestaff builds here. They're also labeled for PvP or PvE as well, so if you just want to take a look at PvE builds, here are all the builds that I currently have for PvE. We're going to be overhauling this a little bit in the coming weeks for Season 9 and for my new players to make it easier, you know, to get into it. These are for people, you know, max level or whatever. But if you click on them, you can see the weapons and jewelry and attributes and stuff. If you guys have any questions about this, again, by all means, hop in the Discord and ask a question in the New World chat. I didn't want to let this builds topic like completely overload the video and make everybody's head explode. It's not something you need to worry about as you're leveling up, and it's only really relevant for some of the content, like I say, like the end game raids and stuff like that. It is definitely worth just putting together and finding your own fun. You can queue up randomly and just play anything, especially when it comes to difficulty 1. You can get away with, you know, most shenanigans. It's only when you get to difficulty 2, 3, or perhaps the raid where you really need to start playing something quite serious. One quick piece of advice that I do want to impart on you guys at the end of this video is your armor. A very important perk to focus on is called Enchanted Ward. If nothing else that you take away from this video, I would just say that once you hit max level, look for armor with Enchanted Ward. This is really, really good at reducing incoming damage when you're fighting other players and when you're fighting the AI as well. So in PvE and PvP, Enchanted Ward is huge. And another great perk to get is Refreshing. Prioritize these perks over the gear score. So you can see I'm quite low here, 662 compared to, you know, my Warhammer here, which is 715, but the reason why I've gone so low is because it has the perks. The perks were the most important thing. Enchanted Ward Refreshing is huge. I'd take this over a 3 perk chest that didn't have Enchanted Ward and Refreshing. So another very important perk to look for in pretty much every build within New World is Hearty, which is only found on your ring. This gives you 10% extra stamina. I would recommend having this as a damage, a healer, a tank, in PvE and PvP, pretty much everywhere. And the reason behind this is because without Hearty, when I dodge twice, I am out of stamina. So you can see all the way from 100 down to 0. But with Hearty, we get 10% extra stamina, so we can dodge once, twice, 3 times, and that can often be the difference between life or death. So I strongly recommend picking up Hearty. That is like just a basically mandatory perk on the ring. If it doesn't have Hearty, get rid of it. Anyway, this particular section of the video is just going to get overwhelming. We are going to have a standalone video for this, and just endgame in general, if you guys are curious, we also have a standalone video for that, and many, many other topics as well. So you'll find it at the end of this video and in the description down below. If there's any other specific topics that you guys are finding confusing in New World Aeternum, you'd like some more information on, let me know in the comments down below. If you want to come ask some questions live, we stream over on Twitch pretty much every day. We're playing New World Aeternum. Link to the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/BagginsTV. That's down there as well. With that being said, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you go ahead and click that like button, subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys all in the next video.